New York, and it's the Christmas season. I'm wearing my ho-ho-ho tie, and we have a studio audience here. And we have kind of a different week. This week, I'm going to be in Wilmington, Ohio. We're doing America's First Christmas on Wednesday. If you're anywhere near Wilmington, bundle up and come join us on Wednesday. You'll see, I think you're going to see Bedford Falls. We're going to learn a lot from the people of Wilmington, Ohio. We brought a studio audience in today because I want to have them join in a conversation. How many people here believe things now that you thought was crazy a year ago? Yeah. How many people are comfortable with the things that you now believe? You're like, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Okay, a couple, right? How many of you see things on this show or elsewhere, and you read and you think, oh, I don't want that to be true. Oh, please, I hope that's not true, right? So the point is here, if I may, we're no different from each other. I don't want to believe the things that I believe. Quite honestly, I can't believe I'm the guy on national television that comes to you every night and says, hey, there's some big effort afoot, and members of our own government are part of it, and it's all about global rule. That doesn't even sound reasonable. It really doesn't. When I come to you and say, we could be looking at the end of our sovereignty as we know it, we are looking at the end of the republic as we know it. I know how that sounds. And I wouldn't, nor I couldn't come on to television every day and tell you that if we hadn't done our homework. We do draw conclusions that others may not. But I haven't met anyone who has done the homework that we have. I talk to people on the street all the time. Say, oh, that's crazy. Do you know this? No. Oh, well, you should watch the show. Because once you put it all together, do you think you could understand this show and understand what we're talking about and the trouble that's coming if you hadn't watched this show almost every day? No, it can't be done. Nobody else is covering this. But love me or hate me, if you know me, you know that I'm not unreasonable. And I know you're not unreasonable either. But we must think out of the box, because our biggest problem right now is we are battling this idea that, somebody told me just the other day, that the biggest battle is when people feel something is normal. It's a protection device that we have in humans. We protect ourselves, and so we look for things that are normal. Even in the most crazy circumstances, we look for something that is normal, and then we hang on to it. And we have to be able to think out of the box, because times are not normal. It is our saving grace, but it is also our Achilles heel. It'll make you look at stories and say, no, that's crazy, because it's so far out of the norm. But we have to be willing to accept the things that are out of the norm if we want to save our republic. What's happening in Europe will happen here. It's only a matter of time, and it's sooner rather than later. When I told you that riots would come in the streets of Europe, does anybody remember me saying this 2 years ago? Did it sound crazy then? Yes. No one was talking about it then. It's happening now. Right now, big government policies have failed all over the globe, and the Band-Aids are running out. They finally had to try to fix the wound. They're going to have to, instead of just patching it and hoping that nobody notices the blood pouring out from the little Dora the Explorer Band-Aid that they've put on. We are sticking these little Dora Band-Aids all over the problem, all over the globe. But it is only a matter of time before angry mobs are shouting their heads off, and they are shouting things like "off with their heads" here in America. It is already happening in Britain. These pictures are astounding. Some of these are just a few blocks away from Parliament. And these aren't just some rowdy students looking to skip class that were acting violently against police. These people actually believe in revolution. They carried out an attack on the car carrying Prince Charles and Camilla last week. Reports are now saying that Camilla actually rolled down the window as they made their way through the crowd, and why they were driven through this crowd is a question I think really needs to be answered. Every single member, if this happened to the President of the United States, every single member of that security team should be fired. A protester reached into the window and, quote, made contact with Camilla. One report said she was poked with a stick, but that is yet to be confirmed. She was on the ground of the limousine. The police say they came within moments of opening fire on the crowd during the attack. If some nut job or some mob tried to smash and reach into the car carrying the President of the United States and Mrs. Obama, I wouldn't feel the least bit of guilt if the Secret Service took them out. Especially if the mob were shouting the things that this mob was shouting. Listen. Off with their heads. This isn't some meaningless phrase over in England or in Europe. Is that just a figure of speech? It's not happened to us here, but it has happened to royals across the ocean. What is it going to take to convince people that if it can happen just a block away from Parliament in the UK, it can happen in Washington, D.C.? Is it really all that far-fetched? All of this was over tuition hikes. Imagine when they hike tuition here, or food stamps, or the free health care over in England is taken away. What happens then? Unfortunately, we are going to find out, because the goal behind all of this is to fundamentally change the structure of power all over the globe. Don't believe me? Watch.
So how are we going to achieve a new global economic order?
As students, as workers, or as global citizens.
We created global trade, we created global finance, we created global companies, but we forgot to create a global government.
A new set of rules for the whole world.
Global governance and global agreements.
So I think you need a new world order.
The burdens of global citizenship continue to bind us together.
You can say this means whatever. When we got rid of the Articles of Confederation and we moved to the Constitution, the founders put out something called the Federalist Papers. And they were the argument for the new Constitution. And they said, this is what it is. This is what it does. This is how it works. Do you know how this global order works? Do you know they're saying we're headed for state capitalism, and everybody is fine with state capitalism? But it's not state capitalism that we're headed towards. Capitalism is nonsense to these people. They hate capitalism. This state capitalism, what they call the system over in China. We used to call it communism. But what they did is they let people have some ownership. It's a hybrid. It's the middle step. It's socialism. So we know it is socialism. State, national, global. Which will it be? By the way, national globalism or national socialism is Mussolini. Is it global? We know it's not state because we're headed for a global order. National, it's global socialism. How's that going to work? We know how we're going to get there. If you take the people at their word, the way to do it is through chaos. Julian Assange now has said so himself. Chaos is his goal. It's not transparency. The hacktivists who support him talked of creating a force for chaotic good. What is that? It achieves their end. Van Jones is talking about creating chaos when he talks about bottom up, inside out, and the top comes crashing down. Is all the support for Julian Assange a coincidence? If you look just at his supporters, the latest is Vladimir Putin of Russia. He actually suggests that Assange should receive the Nobel Peace Prize. For what exactly? Throwing the world into chaos? Germany is now saying if you donate to WikiLeaks, it's tax-free. He's being celebrated by those on the left. In the press, Assange is one of the 6 finalists now for Time's Person of the Year. I don't remember the media lavishing praise on those who leaked the ClimateGate emails. In fact, the statement from the New York Times reporter Andrew Revkin said this: documents appear to have been acquired illegally and contain all manner of private information and statements that were never intended for the public eye, so they will not be posted here. It is so weird that they won't do ClimateGate when they're looking for transparency. It seems the principle is a little more liquid than solid for those on the left. Why? The reason they like it is because Assange wants what they want. Believe it or not, as crazy as it sounds, as one of the hacktivists said, chaos for good. Chaos for good. Do you remember the episode where I put all of the radicals, and I said there are real radicals like Van Jones, and then there are the Democratic radicals. Remember that episode? And I had the timeline, and one side had the anarchist, revolutionary radicals, and then the politicians, and I said, you can't put Bill Clinton over with the Van Jones revolutionaries. And I said, they're using them. They're using revolutionaries and anarchists for what? Create the chaos so people will beg for the system to come down. But gang, you're playing with nitroglycerin. Chaos for good leads to more control, more government control. So here he is viewed as a hero instead of anyone who is illegally obtaining private information. And more government is what we're getting. Have you seen the Securing Human Intelligence and Enforcing Lawful Dissemination Act, SHIELD bill? Who's coming up with these names? This bill is new and is about to make it easier for government to prosecute people like Julian Assange under the Espionage Act. Anybody want to take a guess which president brought us the Espionage Act? Woodrow Wilson. Yes, Woodrow Wilson. This act is now from Congressman Pete King, who I generally like. He said, Julian Assange and his associates who operate and support WikiLeaks have not only damaged U.S. national security with their releases of classified documents, but also placed at risk countless lives, including those of our nation's intelligence sources around the world. WikiLeaks presents a clear and present danger to the national security of the United States, and Julian Assange, an enemy of the U.S., should be prosecuted under the Espionage Act. This legislation will give the Attorney General additional tools to do just that. Now, call me crazy, but what do you say we don't expand the government power? What he's demonstrating with these leaked documents is you cannot trust the government. So to stop him from exposing a government you cannot trust, you want to give that government more power. Have we all gone insane? They will not call this law retroactive, but this law seems to be created to target one individual, which I don't think is even constitutional. And I don't know how you make a law to punish something that has already happened. They're going after him for something he already did. Or are they just hoping he does it again? Let me bring in this one from Walmart. You stand in line now at Walmart and you're going to see this.
Homeland security begins with hometown security. That's why I'm pleased that Walmart is helping to make our communities more safe and secure. If you see something suspicious in the parking lot or in the store, say something immediately. Report suspicious activity to your local police or sheriff. If you need help, ask a Walmart manager for assistance.
Is somebody making bombs in the parking lot of Walmart? Is somebody in the sock department doing something that I don't know about? Reporting suspicious activity. Does this include shoplifters? Because if it does, why is the Department of Homeland Security now at my local Walmart? The top down. Those you see marching in Europe, those setting fire by releasing stolen documents are looking for chaos. Responsible citizens of the U.S. are looking for transparency and accountability and limited government. Do not confuse the two goals. The enemy of your enemy is not your friend.